stage now, Michael. You're live.
Welcome to EMBA Consortium's first Iconic Company presentation. We've got a really interesting session for you, a talk about how to turn research into spin-offs from Fraunhofer Society. So your presenter, your speaker today will be Mr. Thomas Doppelberger, the director of Fraunhofer Venture. He studied economics and business administration at the university in Augsburg and then joined Fraunhofer in 1998. He's been with Fraunhofer since 2000, where he developed and established Fraunhofer Society's spin-off and investment program. His primary focus is continuing to expand and support the offer of spin-off ideas and projects, as well in intensive collaboration with Fraunhofer spin-offs and investments. So maybe just on the organizational side, while Mr. Doppelberger is speaking, I enabled the live question and answer part of Aircast, so you can type in questions as we go. And then after the presentations, I will start to read out the questions, in the order received. So, don't hesitate to type in questions during the presentation. And with this, I'll turn it over to Mr. Doppelberger. Welcome, and thank you for being here.
Yes. Yes, thank you very much, Michael, for the warm welcome and your introduction. As you already introduced me, my name is Thomas Doppelberger. I'm the head of Fraunhofer Venture, and I like to give the audience some information how Fraunhofer is dealing in the environment of spin-offs, how we commercialize research and development results from our institutes into new business models. And I hope I give you all a whole overview. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to bring it into the chat, and Michael will afterwards bring the questions to me, and I hopefully can answer them. Next slide, please. Yes, first of all, I want to give you some information about the Fraunhofer Society at all. Next slide. Yes, I don't know exactly if everybody is familiar with Fraunhofer. Fraunhofer was established in 1949, but the name Fraunhofer is much more older. Joseph von Fraunhofer lived in the 18th century here in Munich. I'm located here in Munich to add this now. And Joseph von Fraunhofer was a very famous researcher. He discovered the Fraunhofer lines in the solar spectrum. He was an inventor of processing new lenses, and he was also an entrepreneur. He was the director and a partner in a glass work next to Munich. And already in the 18th century, there was a business angel. It was the King of Bavaria who sponsored Joseph von Fraunhofer to do his research works. And there was also a mentor, the inhabitor of a big brewery, so that Joseph von Fraunhofer can do his research work as he wants. In the meanwhile, 70 years later, or not in the meanwhile, 70 years later, in 1949, after the Marshall Plan, when there was a build-up program sponsored from the US to rebuild up Germany, there was established the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft here in Munich in 1949. You can see the details, what happened in the last 70 years in the next slide. And in the meanwhile, Fraunhofer is one of the biggest European research organizations, and we have research institutes all over Germany, and we have nearly 29,000 employees and 74 research institutes, and they were, as I've mentioned already, located all over Germany. To give you an impression how Fraunhofer is organized, there is one headquarter here in Munich located, and 74 research institutes are depending to the headquarter legally, but they all organized as independent business units. We have a research volume budget of 2.8 billion euro at all, and we have three main income sources as Fraunhofer. 1/3 we were receiving from the government, from the Ministry of Education and Research here in Germany. Around about 50% of the budget we were dealing together with industry partners. We were receiving contracts, cooperation agreements, we were negotiating contract and negotiation agreements, research agreements with industry partners, and 1/3, not that big, we were acquiring public funded projects sponsored by the European Commission or other ministries in Germany or the federal states here in Germany. So at all, we say 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 public money, basic money from the ministry, and 1/3 from the industry. But in reality, it's not that 1/3 solution dividing anymore. We have much more projects together with industry partners than we were receiving public money. And last but not least, we also have some licensing fees we were receiving. And at the end of the day, when we do our job well as Fraunhofer Venture, we also have exit income when we sell some shares of our startup company. And then I will switch to the next slide. Here you can see how Fraunhofer brings the technology into the market, what we are elaborating in our research institutes. There are 6 parts how we do this. Of course, the way you see here in the dark green, it's the way how we commercialize and how we support spin-off. I will go in detail later on. We do a lot of IP licensing, negotiating licensing agreements with partners. We have our Fraunhofer Academy, and they were supported trainings for partners out of the economy, out of our environment in special fields. Then the main part is contract research with industry partners. Then one path is heads and careers. That is the way when Fraunhofer scientists are leaving our institutes, then they go to other partners, to other universities maybe, but mainly they go to industry partners, and then we say it's the brain drain. Fraunhofer scientists are leaving Fraunhofer and going to partners. And last but not least, the social participation, where we see problems in the society, where Fraunhofer as a research institute has some IP, then we were negotiating and bringing the IP in public-private partnership activities, not for profit, let's say for unprofit. Fraunhofer is a non-for-profit organization to solve problems they are coming up in the society. This is also a more or less new way to bring research to the market. Here we are focusing on sustainability, the 17 sustainability goals of the UN. This is behind the social participation. And now I will switch to what we do at Fraunhofer Venture. And then on the next slide, you can skip this as well. You see our mission. Why is Fraunhofer acting in the environment of spin-offs? Of course, we want to activate and maximize the potential of the IP, which is brought by the way of spin-off into the market. This is what we often hear from the politics and from the government. How is Fraunhofer bringing the research results, partly financed from tax money, let's say, into the market, and there is a very important way here in Germany in the whole innovation environment to support startups. Fraunhofer is doing this, of course. Startups are the partners of the future for commercializing our our background IP, but startups, if they are developing, they also need partners in the research field, and of course this can be Fraunhofer, or should be Fraunhofer. Then we have, our mission is also to create collaborative networks. We are not dealing alone. We are doing this together with external partners from a management level, external partners from an investor level, and also external partners from other activities all over Europe. They were supporting startups, business plan challenges, and so on. We have a close network and want to bring our spin-offs together with those external activities. Our main goal, of course, is to increase the number of spin-offs, the number of high-tech spin-offs here in Germany and Europe, in order to bring technology into the market. And it's also a fact that our Ministry of Research and Education is focusing on the number of spin-offs we are creating each year. And one main issue we promote the entrepreneurial spirit and startup culture in our research institutes in order to motivate our scientists to go this way in a step of in the environment this is the next step in my career. And so you can see in the overview, of course, not only the IP Fraunhofer is the basis. We are also focusing on the environment, the partners we are needing for the whole process, and of course, a main focus and a main success factor in the whole environment is the staff and the entrepreneurs. They can come from the inside, from our institutes, but also from the outside. We have a close network to serial entrepreneurs in order to become a part of the management team of the startups we are supporting. And on the next slide, you can see the track record, what we have done in 20 years, because Fraunhofer Venture was established in 2001, and we are active now for 20 years. We would have liked to make a big party this year, 20 years Fraunhofer Venture, but at the present time, it wasn't able to do a big party beside online and remote activities. So we hope to do this next year. And here you can see some facts and figures, what we have done in the last 20 years. We identified nearly 800 spin-off projects out of our institutes, and we founded 442 spin-offs. I think in the meanwhile, we are over the 450 spin-offs we have established. And in 150 out of them, Fraunhofer was a shareholder. We invested in those companies. This is also an issue where Fraunhofer Venture is responsible for. And we also have sold 96 of our portfolio companies in the meanwhile and received a return of 31 million euro. Not all of them are unicorns. They are small and medium enterprises, we as Fraunhofer are a partner in the first time, in the founding time, and it's not an issue for us to have a big portfolio or internal or maximize the internal IRR. What we are investing, we want to be the partner in the first step of the startup companies, and then when they are established in the market, we go a step back and supporting, maybe from another side, maybe from a research perspective. What we have also done in these 20 years, we acquired more than 500 million euro venture capital to our companies where we are shareholders. In this environment, we know the figures best. We are not able to have the figures how many venture capital was achieved from the startups where we are not a shareholder. And also the Fraunhofer institutes were receiving an amount of licensing income from the spin-offs, and also the young spin-offs has research need, and they go back to the institutes and make together with them projects. Here is written down a number of 350 million euro, where Fraunhofer is and the own spin-off of our institutes are working close together. So, and now in the next slide, and this is maybe the much complicated slide for external guys who are not inside of Fraunhofer. I want to show you in detail what we are doing at Fraunhofer Venture and how we act from the idea to the founding of a startup company, and if we become a shareholder, how we support the spin-offs until the exit. At the first time, the whole process is started with an internal and in the meanwhile also external scouting process in order to identify where are the entrepreneurial thinking scientists at our institutes, where are technology and research results at our institutes, which can be the basis for a startup company. And there we have different ways to get the information of our institutes. As one example, if there is an invention made in one of our institutes, or the invention has their headquarters here in Munich is informed about all the invention they are made, and so we have a first contact to the guys who are standing behind such a invention, and then together with them, the Fraunhofer patent department is thinking about does it make any sense to claim a patent on the one or the other field. And Fraunhofer has an active patent portfolio at present, more than 6,000 patent families. So there is a lot of daily work done in the patent department, and we are working close together with the patent department in order to identify technology fields, research results, which can be the basis from our perspective, for a startup company. And then we get in touch with the guys who are standing behind, let's say, the IP. This is one way how the scouting on the left side is working. And the other way, and it's a very important way for us, is all the technology field where Fraunhofer itself is spending money into research and development projects. We are receiving, as I've mentioned at the beginning, a huge amount of money per year from the government, and we are not only and we are spending this money in internal research programs, as we call them. It's our Prepare program, and all the projects which are financed from this program, from this internal program, programs, the IP belongs to Fraunhofer, and we have to solve the question, how do and how can we commercialize the results? And this is also a very important way of the scouting, where Fraunhofer at own is investing money into research projects. And if we identify a technology field, some patents, or a group of scientists at the institute, and they say, okay, that may be the right basis for a startup, then we working together with them on their business model, on their business plan, on their financing plan. We were negotiating how they can have access to the IP. There is a lot of contract work to done, the freedom to operate, that the startup has access to the Fraunhofer LP is a very important issue for external financing partners. Then the whole thing how the scientists are leaving maybe the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft into the startup, how we work together in the future, the startup and Fraunhofer. These are all very important issues, and there are responsible some lawyers here in my team at Fraunhofer Venture. And at the end of the whole spin-off support, from a economic, from a legal perspective, from a patent or IP perspective, at the end of the day, hopefully we have a business plan in order to found the startup company. And we have done this nearly 500 times the last 20 years. And in some cases, as you see here in the mid of the slide there, we are also thinking about, doesn't it make any sense for Fraunhofer to become a shareholder in the startup company? And maybe, first of all, I like to switch one step back. I want to give you additional information about our CoLab and our AHEAD program. Our CoLab program is a program we are establishing in the last 2 years in order to identify external startups. They are not coming out of the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft. They are external startup companies. Beside the scouting process, beside the internal scouting process, we started the external scouting process to identify external startups. They maybe have a technology problem, or they not thinking about contacting a Fraunhofer Institute, and we bring them together in order to identify if there is any technological need from their perspective where Fraunhofer has maybe the possibility to help them, or the single Fraunhofer Institute has the possibility to help them in order to bring them together. And this is the way how Fraunhofer is trying to support external startups by bringing them close together with maybe patents or technological solutions we have in our institutes. And all over this we have created some years ago as it here is written down, additional AHEAD support. And there we were spending money, internal money, into our startup teams in a pre-seed phase in order to give them free time and free space to prepare together in very close cooperation with the investment managers and lawyers out of my team, all the things which are needed to prepare their own business model and their own spin-off. Why do we spend money in such a pre-seed phase? The answer is very simple. Our institutes, they are dealing in a huge amount of research projects, and we always have the problem that it takes a long time period for our researchers if they want to ramp up a startup company besides their original work they have to do. And so we created this AHEAD program, that the project where our scientists are financed, if they attempt in this program, they were financed from Fraunhofer Venture, half a year or so, and in this period they have only free time, but they have to work in a very close issue together with the investment managers and lawyers out of my team in order to prepare all things which are necessary for starting their company. And we were working in close milestones and check-ins where they have to come here to Munich to our program, and then we will work on all the, let's say, legal and economic issues. And if we see in this journey that some points cannot be solved or we have problems, then we like to solve the problems, of course, to identify external entrepreneurs, to speak with customers and so on. And in some extent, we identify problems, or we have also projects, spin-off projects in the transfer program ahead that you say, okay, it doesn't make any sense to ramp up a startup company here, and then we stop it, of course. And this is our main program to motivate our researchers to think about, is maybe a startup, creating a startup company the right way for my technology and the next step in my own career. And Fraunhofer is spending around about 10 million euros per year in the AHEAD program. And if we have done all the preparation work, all the coaching work and all the scoutings I have mentioned now, then we were thinking about, does it make sense for Fraunhofer to become a shareholder in such a startup company? And in the main cases, Fraunhofer is also one part founding such a company. We go together to the investors and say, okay, here's the story, here's the business model, how we see or where we see a new startup company. Here are the scientists or maybe the external management members, and Fraunhofer is bringing the technology in, and we see here a win-win situation. And do you like? Here I've written down that we have some partners for early stage investments, of course, the whole venture capital scene in Germany or in Europe. And we were working close together with two very focused funds for pre-seed and seed investments. It's the High-Tech Founders Fund at the one side, the biggest fund here in Germany, focusing in high-tech startups, and the FTTF, it's the Fraunhofer Technology Transfer Fund. This is a fund we have established 2 years ago, focusing only in Fraunhofer spin-off, and the fund is financed one half from Fraunhofer and the other half from the European Investment Fund in Luxembourg. And what we are also responsible at Fraunhofer Venture is we are doing the whole investment management for Fraunhofer in all companies where Fraunhofer is a shareholder. We are responsible to take care for these portfolio companies. We are looking for additional management. We try to organize how this funded spin-off and founded spin-offs are working together with Fraunhofer, the Fraunhofer institutes in the future. We look for additional investment partners for further financing rounds. We are partner for negotiating and thinking about strategic plans, and also what can be exiting plans. This is the main issue for Fraunhofer Venture in the field, which is here in the slide named as investment management. And here on this slide, you can see that we are doing nearly all the things which is needed, not in a technical support, because here the institutes have the best know-how themselves. We are a partner from the first idea, from the scouting until the exit of the spin-off company from a legal and economic perspective. And I think we have explored and established a process that we are partner for the scientists and later on for the spin-offs in all phases they have to go through. And I hope I had the possibility to give you some information and what Fraunhofer Venture is doing in this environment. And now there are some minutes left, and I hope there are many questions.
Yeah, and I hope everybody can hear me again. We actually have a couple of questions. So the first one, I think, probably is a fun one. What are the most important or successful inventions that you've supported? Or, another question that kind of builds on that. Any inventions or innovations that I may know?
Okay. One invention of Fraunhofer, I think everybody knows here in this room, is MP3. If you use a smartphone and hear some music, then you need a technology, and this was invented by Fraunhofer to comprehend the audio files. There we don't have established a startup company. This is a standard software in the meanwhile, and our commercialization partners are the big ones in the audio scene. And Fraunhofer is very happy, of course, of this technology and receiving a lot of licensing income per year. If you ask technology where Fraunhofer has established spin-off activities, then of course also in the environment of MP3, MPEG Surround, ASC, Audio Advanced Coding, these are standard software kits where we also free for establishing small startup companies. It's standard software, of course, open source at the one side. And if you want to have some example for startup companies, then I only can focus on the 75 institutes of Fraunhofer. They are covering all technology fields you can imagine, and as bright also are the activities of our startup companies. We have some focuses, of course, especially in the field of microelectronic sensors. Fraunhofer is very strong, and maybe I'm focusing on a further company, the company Next Wave we established 10 years ago, and they were focusing on the producing of wafers for photovoltaic cells. And they are just building up a production line here in Germany. And this is surprising because everybody says, no, the market here in Germany is closed, and the market and the producers of photovoltaic cells are located in Asia. We have a very efficient process here, so that it's also able to build up such a production line here in Germany.
Cool. Wow. Great. I've got two great questions from Stefano Calzi. Does the government influence the research field of major interest or area of research where the institute should focus on? That's the first one. I'll let you answer this one first.
I don't want to say that the government is influencing the research field of Fraunhofer or the research fields at all. But as I've mentioned at the beginning, 1/3 of our budget we acquiring public money from public programs of the ministries, of course. And if there are common problems, climate change and so on, of course, there are big programs, especially financed from the European Commission, and then our institutes acquire for such money in such general fields. But I would say that the government is influencing the activities in our institutes in detail. Of course, there are big programs and addressing the big problems of the societies, and within these programs, there are single research fields, and inside of them, Fraunhofer is active, of course.
Great, thank you. Very interesting. The second question from Stefano was, does the industry, for example, automotive, ask for research on specific fields of interest?
Of course, the big industry partners, also the automotive industry, are main partners of Fraunhofer, and we were working together on, let's say, the mobility of the future, of course.
Mm-hmm. Great, super. A question from Siraj Pahad. Does your venture expand to other countries, for example, like South Africa? In terms of assisting your startups, is your venture only in the German market?
No. We are open, of course, for globalization or international activities of the activities we are as Fraunhofer Venture doing, and we have as Fraunhofer also subsidiaries in foreign countries. And of course, our spin-offs don't stop thinking in the border of Germany. The market, of course, when they start is Germany, maybe Europe, but then they are focusing to foreign countries, and we have close cooperation to the University of Stellenbosch, and also established already a startup company. And now in the Corona crisis, we have made some projects together with the University of Stellenbosch in order to bring technology in the environment of breathing to the hospitals in South Africa.
Great. Wow, interesting. Interesting and difficult question maybe from Catherine Gillet. More than 80% of startups are started exclusively by male teams. Is Fraunhofer, or what is Fraunhofer doing to support women in this field?
It's a very challenging question, because Fraunhofer is a research organization in the MINT technologies, and we have problems to identify female researchers at all. And if the rate of female researchers is very low, or I don't know exactly, but I think 20% of the researchers of Fraunhofer are female, then if you see that we are establishing 30 spin-offs per year, and of course the rate of spin-offs let's say founded by female researchers is in the same range. But it's a political issue to raise this number of female researchers, and I hope that if we reach our goal, that at the end of the day we have more spin-off powered by female entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. Another question that I thought was interesting is, and actually it came up a couple of times, can you see a trend in the type of research that you're doing, or, and any core areas that are more interesting at the moment than others?
I think climate change and all the environment, new storage of energy, new producing energy, that's a focus, of course. Digitalization, IT, the whole IT environment, of course, is very important. And a main change I've seen, or we are seeing at present, is that investors, and of course we need venture capital investors from the outside, they are not only focusing, it's a main point, of course, on the hockey stick, how the potential of the startups are, how they get bigger and bigger, of course, that they can sell their shares at the end of the day. the investors are also focusing on the SDG criteria. They are looking, are the spin-off also focusing and solving problems in the environment of sustainability? And this is, let's say, a change we are seeing, that not only the development of the spin-offs from a shareholder value perspective is important. It's also a main decision from investors. How is the impact in the environment of sustainability?
Absolutely. And I think totally, I mean, we see it in, everywhere. Sustainability is just gaining so much in importance. Another question, and it came up a few times. So you said you scout, but can companies or entrepreneurs also contact you?
Yes, of course. From the inside, of course, from the inside of Fraunhofer, it's a common way that scientists come to us and say, "Here, I have an idea. Can you help us?" But with our Fraunhofer CoLab we started 2 years ago, we are also open for researchers, spin-offs from the outside.
And building on that, and would this be open to people from other countries as well?
As well, there's no limitation at all.
Okay, great, super. And I wrote down another question. Are there any other international corporations? I think you said University of Stellenbosch in South Africa.
Yes, of course there are international corporations. Mostly they are based on corporations from our institutes together with other foreign universities, other research organizations, and also industry partners from other countries. And if the cooperation with foreign partners is working well on an institute level, then it's also transformed to our activities of Fraunhofer Venture, because the basis is always the cooperation of our institutes. If they were working together with international partners, of course, such startup ideas are also based on those projects.
Okay, great. I think it came up a couple of times. I think it's more like, where do you recruit? International, national, you said before, area of competence is high tech. So it's the classic scientists, IT sector that you're looking for. Or
you mean how we recruit from a Fraunhofer perspective our researchers?
Yeah. Right.
That's a very important question and a very difficult question, because Fraunhofer is a non-for-profit, public-funded research organization. We have a limitation how much we are allowed to pay our researchers, and we cannot pay our staff the same amount of money than the industry can. So Fraunhofer, of course, we are working close together with all the universities here in Germany, and we recruit our young scientists from the universities, that we say, okay, come as a student to Fraunhofer, make your PhD, and then stay a couple of years maybe. Then there are 3 ways for their career. The one say they can stay at Fraunhofer, they leave Fraunhofer and go to the industry, as I mentioned before, the brain drain career of heads, let's say, to partners. And the way we are focusing on as Fraunhofer Venture is to motivate them to spin out their own company.
Okay, great. Super. I think I know we need to come to an end. One last question. You said you have a lot of cooperations with industry. How do those cooperations work? Do you have joint teams?
yes, joint teams. Industry guys come to Fraunhofer institutes. Fraunhofer guys go to industry partners. I think there's you can think about everything to work together, share teams. Let's say at the end of the day.
Okay, great. Um, I think it's actually, I think let's, if we have any last questions, please, post them now. Otherwise, I think, all the big areas we've touched on. So we would thank you for, for your participation. We saw it was a really big group of people that joined. So great. Thank you, Mr. Doppelberger, for, for the interesting insight into Fraunhofer. Um, it's one of those organizations that I think a lot of people have heard of, but very few know how does it really work. So thanks for giving us some insights there. Um, like I said, thank you to all the participants, regardless of where you joined from. I know for some of you very early, for others very late. So thanks for taking the time, and we hope to see you in a lot of other speeches here in this intensive week. Thank you.